You know, since the Orlando mass shooting, there's been a ton of people talking about it, and rightfully so. But most of that talk is centered on the Second Amendment, the LGBT community, ISIS, and I think with all the talk surrounding that, those three areas, we're missing a few key areas in this. And in today's video, that's what we're going to talk about. Hi folks, Howard here for VP Prepping and Survival, and as I said in the open to the video, I want to talk about a few aspects of this Orlando mass shooting tragedy that I don't think most people are focused on, but maybe we should be. And the first is that the only person that was armed here was the security guard outside. That was due to both the wishes of the establishment, as my understanding, they had to sign up, but also Florida state law that nobody can be armed, carry a gun inside of an establishment that serves drinks. I'm not here to talk about whether that's a good idea or not. That's really not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is how easy a target this security guard was, because the shooter knew this was the only opposition he was going to have, the only problem he was going to have. So he had the complete advantage. He got to go up to this one person that he knew was armed, take that person out before that person was aware of what was going on, and then proceed to go inside to these helpless victims. That, to me, brings home the importance of the gray man. And for those who don't know, the gray man is this concept that you should keep a low profile. You don't want to advertise, whether it's SHTF or any other situation. You want to kind of fly under the radar. You want to be armed, but is it more important to be armed and open carry, as some people seem to think, or is it better to conceal carry? And I think that in this instance, we see very clearly what happens when you open carry. And I'm not saying this guy got shot because he was open carrying. He was just, it was very clear he was the only opposition that the shooter was going to have, and that made him an easy target. Whereas the same is going to be true if you're open carrying and you're in a situation where a mass shooter is going to show up and you're the only person carrying. You are going to be the target. You're going to be the first target, and that's not a good thing. So concealed carrying gives you the exact same ability to defend yourself and defend others without advertising that you're going to be able to defend yourself and defend others. So you're going to have a much better chance of not, you know, unless you're the first guy just by happenstance that happens to get shot, you're going to have a much better chance to react and to deal with this threat versus just open carrying where the person's going to assess, hey, this is my problem right here, and I got to take care of that guy first. That's the first thing I took from this. The second thing I wanted to talk about in all of this with the Orlando mass shooting is all the people calling this a false flag, and well, it's everything. Listen, I get it. We don't trust the government. We you know, anybody who pays attention doesn't really trust the government that much. That's understandable. But the idea that every single shooting is a false flag just because it's a shooting is nonsense. For goodness sakes, folks, do you call every time somebody gets stabbed a false flag, or every time somebody gets raped, or every time somebody gets... It happens. Human beings are flawed and broken, a little bit loose in the head, as you know, I'm a complete testament to that. We're all a little off. We do crazy things, and people snap and do crazier things. That happens. And the idea that every time it happens with a gun, it has to be a false flag is, one, an insult, an absolute insult. And you're going to see conspiracy theories from one end of the spectrum to the other with every single, oh, look, this person's still alive and this person was in this mass tragedy because somebody looked like them over here. It's just, knock it off. For goodness sakes, it's an insult to the people who were killed in these events. And it also makes you sound bat crap crazy. Every time somebody shoots somebody with a gun, it's not a freaking false flag, all right? Get over yourselves. The final thing I want to talk about is how quickly your average person is willing to trade in other people's rights as well as their own, if they don't understand how that works, in order to have this greater illusion of safety. I've seen politicians already come out and talk about how we need to relax some things, open up things to give more powers to these agencies that are doing these investigations, background checks, what have you, investigating terrorists. The problem with that is, you use any means you want if you're investigating terrorists who are not American citizens. I don't give a crap. They're not constitutionally protected under our Constitution. You do what you have to. That has nothing to do with me. I'm not checking my rights at the door so that you can feel a little safer. I'm not going to do that. We saw post 9/11 how in a haze of patriotic fervor and fear, people were willing to put up with things like the Patriot Act, which wasn't patriotic at all. It was just an infringement on a whole mess of their constitutionally guaranteed rights. And I'm already hearing talk from people who are, you know, we need to give up Second Amendment rights. I mean, that's a given. We were going to hear that anyway. But people who think that, well, they should be able to investigate this. Listen, this guy was an American citizen. It sucks that he did what he did. It absolutely sucks. But he was an American citizen. He has the same constitutional rights that I have. If somebody wants to investigate him, wants to have a search his home, tap his phone, whatever, they should have to go to a judge and say, listen, we think this person is a problem, we think he's a threat, and present the reason that they think that person's a threat, and meet some reasonable threshold for that person's constitutional rights to get crapped on. Just because today, when the politicians come out, they're going to be talking about we need to, you know, really step up to stop radical Islam. You better watch out, because when you give them the power to do that against American citizens, they are not going to restrict who they investigate and who they consider terrorists. Listen very closely to statements that Harry Reid, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and plenty of the other people in Washington have already made about who they think are terrorists. And if you are willing to give them greater power outside of the Constitution to investigate terrorists, you better darn sure believe that the people within this community, the Patriot community, the prepper community, are going to be the ones who are bearing the main brunt of that, because they are going to use that freedom to investigate, to circumvent the Constitution and crap all over our rights. And I'm not willing to check my rights at the door, as I've already said. So if you're willing to check yours, go sign some statement at the government and let them crap all over your rights. But leave my rights and the rights of everybody else in this country the heck out of this. It's not patriotic. It certainly isn't going to make you any safer. But what it is going to do is open up the government to further infringe on all of your constitutionally guaranteed rights, all the things in the Bill of Rights, not just the Second Amendment. That's not just what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your Fourth Amendment rights, where the government can't come to your house and just search your stuff or tap your phone or check your emails, or all the things that they're already doing that they should not be allowed to do without meeting some reasonable standard that they would have to meet to get the search warrant. So, you know, I might sound a little crazy to you. If you're not where I am, where you think government's a little nuts and government's a little untrustworthy, that's fine with me. Do what you got to do. But I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a threat to anybody, and I'm not willing to check my rights at the door just because the government, somebody within the government, decided one day that maybe I am. Attaching anything to the no-fly list or any other mechanism that they have that the politicians talk about that sounds so great when they present it, but when you realize that there is no oversight, no standard, no criteria, no threshold to be met to be put on one of those lists, it's just somebody decided you were a threat. Somebody, they don't have to meet any standard. Maybe they just don't like you that day. Maybe they're in a bad mood. Maybe somebody in your family pissed off somebody in their family and they're trying to get rid of. Who cares why it is? There should be some kind of threshold that has to be met, and I'm not willing to pee away my constitutional rights just so that you can feel a little safer, because all that is an illusion of safety. You cannot, I've said it before and I will say it from now until the day I die, you cannot 100% protect against random acts of violence or determined act of violence, because if somebody wants bad enough to commit an act of violence, they are going to do it. And you can crap away all your constitutional rights and you're still not going to be protected against those things. So keep your rights and don't give up them for this illusion of safety, and that's all it is just an illusion. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I'm Howard for VP Prepping and Survival. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and watching the video. If you like what you saw, click that subscribe button down there. Leave me a comment and let me know what you thought. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, and of course, if you want to check out more videos, you can check out my YouTube channel. Remember, folks, in any survival situation, you don't just want to survive, you want to thrive. Happy shooting, everybody.